Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Keto and Crime. You know, it's Funoween season, it's Halloween, and I just decided that I would have a nice little casual conversation with you guys and talk about a new movie that I watched this weekend in relation to a crime case I've already covered on this channel. And I am going to bring to you my review of American Murder Family Next Door on Netflix. It literally just dropped last week, and I actually found the time this weekend to watch it, and I thought you would and maybe possibly enjoy my take on it. Now, I know this is not going to be a hugely researched video like my review of Cuties was, where I actually watched it a couple of times and then researched things, phenomenon around it. This is just going to be my off-the-cuff take on this movie because I have already done a lot of research on this case. I did a two-part expose on the Chris and Shanann Watts case. If you haven't seen it, then I simply ask,
Hey, wait a minute, what the hell?
But you can see it right up here. Anyway, so if you have not read or watched a very in-depth video on that case, I highly recommend you watch it. You watch that before you listen to my review, and especially before you watch the movie on Netflix, because my main criticism of this movie is that you can't, if you just watch this movie, never knowing anything about the Watts case, never watching any true crimers, never reading about it, then you would be kind of lost because there's not a whole lot of narration. In fact, there's no narration in this video outside of the clips and footage they use of the people involved. So you really have to have an understanding of the case before you can appreciate this movie for what it is. Now, that being said, I am outside. I live in the boonies about 30 miles west of Nashville, Tennessee. I live next door to a lot of other country people, and there are dogs. There is a chainsaw somewhere. So I do apologize, but I just thought I'd let my hair down, what hair I have left, and just drink some coffee with you guys and talk about this movie. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the case, but again, highly recommend you check out my videos. I'll link them again, and simply watch those because I give you a lot of good background information. You understand exactly what happened, who the players were, and what could have possibly led to it. I do a very in-depth breakdown of their financial situation just before the murders, which a lot of people believe that may have been a motivating factor. But let me give you some quick background on the Watts case. Chris Watts and Katherine Shanann Watts met in North Carolina around 2010. They were married there in 2012. Now, Shanann had been married one time before to an attorney, and it was a pretty bad breakup. She was also rumored to have had an affair with her boss that worked at a local not SUV, but sports vehicle like toys, like motorcycles and muscle cars and that sort of things dealership. She was rumored while she was working for him as a manager of the dealership that she had an affair with him. So her first marriage to the attorney did break down. And again, I cover this all in depth in my video. They met. Shanann was suffering from a flare-up of lupus, as well as all the ailments that go along with that, and she was really at her lowest point. She was living with her parents again, and they met on Facebook. She was very plain that she never intended it to go any further than just a Facebook connection, even though he wanted to meet her. So she finally consented to meet him on a blind date. They did. She immediately commented she didn't think it was going to go anywhere because he was very overweight at the time, but he doted on her and eventually won her over, and they were married in 2012. Now, from the beginning, His parents did not like her. Neither did his sister. They refused to attend the wedding. They said they thought she was bossy, and that was a recurring theme that would happen throughout their marriage, that Chris was definitely the more submissive one, whereas Shanann kind of wore the pants in the family. Shanann was a very strong personality. And she convinced him to move to Colorado with her. She just wanted to change. She wanted out of North Carolina, out of the Carolinas in general. It was just bad. You know, bad. Bad memories. So they moved out to California. Excuse me, Colorado, not California. They didn't go quite that crazy. Just kidding. I love my California peeps. Anyway, so they moved to Colorado. And Chris had always had a dream of being a NASCAR pit mechanic, and he was working toward that in North Carolina because the South is the hub of NASCAR. But his family blamed Shanann, and maybe he did too, for giving up his dream to move to Colorado, just outside Denver in Frederick, Colorado, and they went to work for a nearby Ford dealership, both he and Shanann. Shanann was a salesperson, Chris was a mechanic, and he worked his way up the ladder there, while she did as well. She was always very good at sales. She got sicker, though, and ended up having to give that job up and going to work for a local children's hospital in the billing department. Well, they ended up getting in some pretty steep financial problems and had to file bankruptcy. All around the time their first daughter, Bella, was born in 2013. And as a result, they filed bankruptcy, but still, just a couple of years out of bankruptcy, they were able to buy a huge, I think I estimated it in my financial breakdown, $400,000 house in Frederick with their credit. I don't understand how that happened. Again, please watch that video for more in-depth analysis. I'm just skimming the surface. And so they got this house. They took on even more debt. They lived way beyond their means. They ate, they shopped the best foods. They got organics. They lived way beyond their means. Meantime, Chris, wanting more money, completely gave up his mechanic dream and went to work for Anadarko Petroleum, which is an oil and gas company. He got a job as an engineer in the field for more money. And Shanann went to work for the multi-level marketing company known as Lavelle. They sell, they're kind of a competitor to Beachbody. They sell protein powders and vitamins and that sort of thing. And as a result, to make her business grow, she lived on social media. That's how we know so much about this case, is because she was very free on social media. We saw, their not intimate times, but we saw their family time. We saw them going on, sales trips for her company because she did very well. She actually catapulted to the top of her game. She had a Lavelle financed Lexus SUV company car. She was making around, I would say, $70,000 a year. Again, I do break this down in depth in my video. It's part 1 if you want to see the financial breakdown. And they were doing, fairly well, but they still were not able to make their bills, so they were falling ever behind. Meanwhile, they had another child, CC, born in 2015, and then in 2018, just before her murder, Shanann was pregnant with a son, Nico Lee Watts. All the time, them getting further and further into financial straits. She also kind of forced Chris to approve all of his social media posts by her, or she had to post for him because she put him on this Lavelle weight loss management diet, and he did. He worked out. He lost a lot of weight. He was looking good. He went from about 245 down to about 180. And all of this on Facebook, it helped her sell more product. And all along, no one seemed to think anything was wrong, but there was trouble brewing. She told her friends via social media texts that their marriage was not the same, that he didn't want to sleep with her anymore, that she really felt something was going on, and there was. Chris had started an affair with a co-worker at Anadarko. She was actually a contractor, but he worked with her at Anadarko, named Nicole Kessinger, and had started an affair with her. Meanwhile, just before her murder in August of 2018, Shanann took the kids home to North Carolina to visit their family for about 6 weeks. Chris joined them the last week of that trip. And all along, he's spending all this time with Nicole and doing what he wants to do. Shanann Shanann is texting. He's not responding. He even took Nicole out to a dinner and spent. Nicole was always said in her police interviews, Nicole, his girlfriend, that he always paid with cash or with Andarco gift cards whenever they went out. He never paid with credit card. And this was the first time, a date, just before he left to go out to North Carolina, he took her out when he told Shanann he was going to a Colorado Rockies game and had a babysitter for the kids. He was out way past the game. And then took her out and paid with the family's debit card. Well, of course, Shanann, who kept her finger on all the finances, gets an alert. She calls him immediately. He says he just went out to eat and had a salmon and a beer. She actually looks at the restaurant menu and calls him on his bluff. So anyway, he goes out to meet him. It was kind of cold. Also, there had been an incident where the girls who were highly allergic to nuts, especially Cece, had spent some time with Chris's parents, and they had ice cream in the house that she couldn't eat, and she almost ate some of it. Well, as you can imagine, Shanann was furious and basically told Chris to man up and tell his parents not to put his daughter at risk like that. Well, there was a whole big family squabble. The parents said they never wanted to see them again. They didn't even come to Cece's birthday party that was celebrated while they were there. So it was just a big old family blow up. Meanwhile, he goes, they hook up. They come back to Colorado. They were supposed to leave the next week for a couples-only vacation to kind of rekindle their marriage in Aspen, but Chris canceled that. And then she goes on a 2-day business trip for Lavelle with her co-worker and friend, Nicole Atkinson. Comes back. Nicole drops her off early morning hours of August 13th, and that's the last time anyone sees Shanann alive. And so it come to find out through various records, texts and things like that, some weird stuff going on at Chris's work, that he had killed them by choking, had driven them all out to his work site at one of the oil wells, buried Shanann in a shallow grave, and then put his 2 daughters into the oil vat. And he was arrested. There's lots of, controversy about how his body language during interviews and stuff like that. And finally he was arrested. He failed a lie detector test. He eventually confessed, but said that Shanann was the one that killed the daughters. He killed Shanann out of anger, and eventually confessed to the crime and was sentenced to basically life in prison. And that's where the case stands. Well, there's been a whole lot of fascination with this case, as you can imagine. Tons of true crimers have built careers off this case. I did one episode. I guess you could say that about me with the Daybell case. But so now we fast forward to this movie. There's also been a movie on Hulu, Lifetime. Hulu's where I watched it, Lifetime, that is a dramatization. And if you want to check that out, just go on Lifetime Movies. It's just your average Lifetime, lots of dramatization. You can't really trust it because a lot of stuff was changed. But if you want good Lifetime cheese, like I like good Lifetime cheese, you'll enjoy it. But then we come to this movie, which is more of a documentary. But it's a documentary with absolutely no narrative, except they are using never-before-seen footage of the crime, of the case. Okay, it starts with kind of introducing them by using her social media posts. Some we've seen, some we haven't, but they have access to a lot of recordings and texts that only the police would have had and now have been released. And so they do some interviews. They also show their story. I mean, it starts with the camera footage of her returning home, the security camera footage. Then it cuts to the actual body cam footage of the first officer on the scene the day she was reported missing. We cut to texts of her friend Nicole texting her, "Where are you?" It's very well put together. And then it moves on to how she's probably missing. There was some problems in their marriage, all through recordings and texts and social media posts. And then it even cuts back and shows us footage of their wedding way back in 2012. So it tells the entire story of what I just told you in a little more detail, but with texts and recordings and phone calls that have never been seen before. And I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed this movie a great deal. I learned things that I didn't know before, they had actually thoroughly interviewed everyone at Chris's work about it, and they had those recordings. And it really kind of skimmed over the whole affair with Nicole Kessinger because I don't know, because I actually had footage of her interviews in my synopsis that I did, but it kind of skipped over that. It just said that the affair happened and that he confessed to it in the end. The only thing it brought up was that Nicole swears up and down she didn't know that she knew he was married but didn't know his wife was pregnant, and she encouraged him to go back to her, la da da da. But for the most part, it just really reiterated the story that we know, but it gave you a new look into it. Lots of stuff that I didn't know happened, that I didn't know existed. So it was very interesting to me because I do know the case so well. Now, as I said, if you know the case well, you will enjoy this movie. I highly recommend you check it out. There is absolutely no narration. There's no narrative. It just retells this story all through social media posts, edited together in a very creative, brilliant way. But if you go into this not knowing anything about this movie or only knowing the basics, then you will be lost and you will not enjoy this movie. But other than that, I think it's very well done. I'm usually highly critical of documentaries because they do have a narrative that they try to spin, but this one didn't. It just told the story, and in a very creative way. I know I've said that over and over, but it's absolutely true. I highly recommend this movie. I give it 2 thumbs up, and I think you should check it out if you know about the case. If you don't know about the case, whether you watch my videos or you watch someone else, Stephanie Harlow did a great video on it. There is a lot of information there you need to understand before this movie will make any sense to you. But put it on your list once you have the proper background. And I think that should have been maybe a disclaimer on this movie, because I suspect there's a lot of people that are just now hearing about this case from this movie and they're like, what? So just make sure that you do have some background information on it. And that's my review of American Murder, Family Next Door. 2 thumbs up. Very clever, well edited. Great storytelling there without ever a word being spoken outside of the footage and the text and the interview and the police interviews that they had. So definitely check it out. It's worth an hour and a half of your time. And with that, I'm going to say adieu again. Thank you so much to my channel members and my patrons. I love you so much, and I will be back very, very soon with more true crime. Next weekend we have our commentary on Night of the Living Dead, if it all works out. I got that set up for Thursday night, so you'll be seeing that this weekend, as well as I've got a huge treat for you in connection with our Anton LaVey story, but I'm not going to spoil that surprise. I want to make sure that it happens before I promise it to you. But I've got some great stories coming up, so look forward to a very fun Halloween, and I love you so much. Until next time, Keto Comic.